The clinking of silverware and hushed conversations filled the opulent ballroom. Tonight was the annual gala of Omnicorp, a tech giant renowned for its innovations and even more so for the lavishness of its events. Among the smartly dressed attendees, a young man named Daniel moved with quiet efficiency, a waiter navigating the crowded floor with a tray laden with champagne flutes. Daniel wasn't just a waiter. He was a final-year software engineering student, working part-time to fund his ambitious startup project. He dreamt of creating an AI-powered educational platform that would democratize learning, making quality education accessible to everyone, regardless of their background. Tonight, however, his focus was on ensuring every guest had a seamless experience. As he approached a table draped in a shimmering gold cloth, a woman with impeccably styled blonde hair and a diamond necklace the size of a robin's egg snapped her fingers imperiously. "Boy! Another glass of champagne, and make it snappy. This cheap stuff is barely cutting it." Daniel politely inclined his head. "Certainly, madam. I'll be right back with a fresh glass." He proceeded to the service station, his professional demeanor unwavering despite the woman's condescending tone. Returning with the champagne, he carefully poured it into her waiting glass. As he did, he inadvertently brushed against her arm, a slight, almost imperceptible touch. The woman recoiled as if burned. "Watch it, you clumsy oaf," she exclaimed, her voice rising sharply, drawing the attention of a few nearby guests. "Can't you people even do this right? Honestly, the kind of staff they hire these days is appalling." Daniel's cheeks flushed slightly, but he maintained eye contact. "I apologize, madam. It was an accident." "An accident?" she scoffed, her eyes narrowing. "Or is it just your kind being careless and inept? You should be grateful you even have a job here. Now, go away before you spill something on my dress, and perhaps ruin my entire evening." She waved him off dismissively, turning back to her conversation with a sneer. Humiliation washed over Daniel, but years of struggling to make ends meet had taught him resilience. He swallowed his pride, offering a curt "My apologies again, madam," before moving on to his other duties. Little did the wealthy woman, whose name was Victoria Sterling, the notoriously cutthroat CEO of a failing rival tech firm, know that the clumsy oaf she had just belittled was about to inadvertently witness a crucial piece of information that would change everything. As Daniel cleared plates at a nearby table, he overheard a hushed conversation between two men in expensive suits. They were discussing Omnicorp's upcoming acquisition of Sterling Innovations, Victoria Sterling's company. The deal was almost finalized, a last-ditch effort to save Sterling Innovations from bankruptcy after a series of disastrous product launches and financial mismanagement. Daniel's mind raced. He knew enough about the tech industry to understand the implications. This acquisition would be a major power shift, and Victoria Sterling, the woman who had just treated him with such disdain, was on the verge of losing everything she had built, or rather, inherited. The irony was thick. Here she was, flaunting her wealth and looking down on others, completely unaware that her empire was about to crumble. A strange mix of pity and a flicker of something else, perhaps a touch of vindication, stirred within him. The gala continued, the music swelling, the laughter echoing, but Daniel's mind was elsewhere. The information he had inadvertently overheard sparked an audacious idea, a long shot that could potentially solve his own financial woes and perhaps even offer a measure of justice. He finished his shift, the woman's insulting words still echoing in his ears. But now, they were overshadowed by a burgeoning sense of opportunity. He rushed home, his mind buzzing with plans. Sleep was the last thing on his agenda. He opened his laptop, the glow of the screen illuminating his determined face. The student waiter was about to embark on a gamble that could either propel him to unimaginable heights or send him crashing down. Over the next few weeks, Daniel worked tirelessly. He pored over financial reports, market analyses, and Omnicorp's acquisition strategy. He leveraged his coding skills to develop sophisticated trading algorithms, meticulously designed to capitalize on the impending acquisition news. He knew he was playing a risky game, but the memory of Victoria Sterling's condescending treatment fueled his resolve. The day the acquisition was officially announced, Daniel's carefully crafted plan went into action. His algorithms executed a series of strategic trades, buying up shares of Sterling Innovations just as they were poised to surge. He had bet everything he had, and the market responded exactly as he had predicted. Within hours, Daniel's modest savings had multiplied exponentially. He had made a fortune. The irony wasn't lost on him. The very company that was about to be swallowed up was the vehicle for his newfound wealth. Meanwhile, Victoria Sterling was putting on a brave face, publicly hailing the acquisition as a strategic merger that would benefit both companies. But behind closed doors, she was seething. Her once proud company was now a mere appendage of Omnicorp, and her power was significantly diminished. A few weeks later, another grand event was announced: Omnicorp's annual Innovation Summit, a showcase of cutting-edge technology and a networking opportunity for industry leaders. Daniel, now a young tech entrepreneur with a rapidly growing portfolio, received an invitation. He hesitated for a moment, then a determined glint appeared in his eyes. This was his opportunity. He arrived at the summit, dressed in a tailored suit that spoke of his newfound success, a stark contrast to the waiter's uniform he had worn just weeks ago. He navigated the crowded halls with an air of quiet confidence, engaging in conversations with investors and industry titans. As he made his way through the exhibition floor, he spotted her, Victoria Sterling, surrounded by a small entourage, her expression a carefully constructed mask of composure. He took a deep breath and approached her. "Miss Sterling," he said, his voice calm and steady. Victoria turned, her eyes widening slightly as she recognized him. A flicker of annoyance crossed her face. "Oh, it's you. The waiter from the gala. What do you want?" Her tone was still dismissive, though tinged with a hint of curiosity at his presence in this setting. Daniel offered a polite smile. "Daniel Hayes. I believe we had a brief interaction at the Omnicorp Gala." "Indeed," she said curtly. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have important matters to attend to." She began to turn away. "Actually, Miss Sterling," Daniel continued, his voice gaining a firm edge, "I also have important matters to discuss. Matters that concern Sterling Innovations." Victoria stopped, her interest piqued despite herself. "What could you possibly know about Sterling Innovations?" "More than you might think," Daniel replied, reaching into his briefcase. He pulled out a neatly bound document and handed it to her. "Perhaps you should take a look." Victoria reluctantly took the document, her brow furrowing as she read the title, Acquisition Proposal, Sterling Innovations by Hayes Technologies. Her eyes snapped up to Daniel, disbelief etched on her face. This is absurd," she stammered. "Omnicorp just acquired my company." "Not entirely," Daniel corrected her smoothly. "They acquired the assets and the brand, but not the underlying technology patents. Those, you see, I managed to acquire separately." Victoria's face paled. She quickly flipped through the document, her eyes scanning the legal jargon. The horrifying truth began to dawn on her. In her haste to secure the Omnicorp deal, a crucial detail had been overlooked: the ownership of the core patents. And this young man, the waiter she had so rudely dismissed, now held the key to her company's future. How did you?" she began, her voice trembling slightly. "Let's just say I have a knack for recognizing undervalued assets," Daniel said, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "And for seizing opportunities when they arise." He paused, his gaze meeting hers directly. "Just like you seized the opportunity to humiliate a waiter who was simply trying to do his job." The realization hit Victoria like a physical blow. She remembered her condescending words, her dismissive tone. Now, the roles were reversed. She, the powerful CEO, was at the mercy of the young man she had belittled. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "What I want, Miss Sterling," Daniel said calmly, "is to rebuild Sterling Innovations. Not as a failing entity clinging to survival, but as a leader in technological innovation. And I believe," he continued, his eyes gleaming with purpose, "that you might be valuable in that endeavor. Under new management, of course." Victoria stared at him, her mind reeling. The audacity of it all was staggering. But beneath the shock, a flicker of grudging respect began to ignite. This young man had not only outsmarted her, he was offering her a chance at redemption. Daniel held out his hand. "So, Miss Sterling, what do you say? Shall we talk about the future of Sterling Innovations?" Victoria hesitated for a moment, then slowly, deliberately, she reached out and took his hand. The grip was firm, a silent acknowledgement of the new power dynamic. The game had changed, and the waiter who had been humiliated was now holding all the cards. The handshake between Daniel Hayes and Victoria Sterling was more than just a gesture, it was the beginning of an unlikely partnership forged in the crucible of humiliation and ambition. Over the following weeks, they embarked on the challenging task of rebuilding Sterling Innovations, now under the visionary leadership of its unexpected new owner. Daniel's approach was a stark contrast to Victoria's past management style. He fostered a culture of innovation, collaboration, and respect, valuing talent and ideas above all else. He reinvested heavily in research and development, focusing on creating cutting-edge technologies that could once again make the company a leader in the industry. Victoria, humbled by her fall from grace, found herself in the unfamiliar position of reporting to someone younger and less experienced in the traditional corporate world. Yet, she possessed invaluable knowledge of the company's history, its past mistakes, and the intricacies of the market. Slowly but surely, she began to adapt, her sharp business acumen now tempered with a newfound understanding of the human element in success. Their initial interactions were marked by a cautious professional respect, the memory of their first encounter still lingering in the air. But as they worked side by side, a grudging admiration began to grow between them. Daniel recognized Victoria's inherent intelligence and her deep understanding of the industry, while Victoria saw past Daniel's humble beginnings to the sharp intellect and unwavering determination that had propelled him to success. The news of the acquisition of Sterling Innovations patents by a young, unknown entrepreneur had sent ripples through the tech world. Many dismissed it as a fluke, a lucky break. But as Hayes Technologies, Daniel's newly formed company, began to inject life back into Sterling Innovations, skepticism turned into curiosity, and then into genuine interest. Daniel and Victoria made a formidable team. Daniel's fresh perspective and innovative ideas, combined with Victoria's experience and industry connections, proved to be a potent force. They streamlined operations, revamped the product pipeline, and launched a series of groundbreaking new technologies that quickly garnered attention and accolades. One evening, late after a particularly challenging but ultimately successful product launch, Daniel and Victoria found themselves alone in the now bustling Sterling Innovations headquarters. The atmosphere was relaxed, a far cry from the tense encounters of their past. "You know," Victoria said, leaning back in her chair, a hint of a smile on her lips, "I never would have imagined this." Daniel chuckled softly. "Neither did I, to be honest. A few months ago, my biggest concern was whether I'd make enough tips to cover my tuition. And now," Victoria continued, her gaze sweeping around the vibrant office, "you own a significant stake in the future of this company." "We own it," Daniel corrected her gently. "This is a partnership, Miss Sterling. Your expertise has been invaluable." A genuine smile touched Victoria's lips. "Please, Daniel. After everything, I think you can call me Victoria." "And you can call me Daniel," he replied, returning the smile. Their journey was far from over, and challenges still lay ahead. But they had built a strong foundation based on mutual respect and a shared vision. The company that had once been on the brink of collapse was now a rising star in the tech industry, a testament to the unexpected turn of events that had brought Daniel and Victoria together. However, their success had not gone unnoticed. Omnicorp, the giant that had initially acquired Sterling Innovations, watched with increasing unease as the revitalized company began to encroach on its market share. The CEO of Omnicorp, a ruthless and ambitious man named Richard Harding, saw Hayes Technologies and the reborn Sterling Innovations as a direct threat to his dominance. Richard Harding was not a man to take competition lightly. He began to orchestrate a series of underhanded tactics to undermine Daniel and Victoria's progress. Rumors were spread, key employees were poached with lucrative offers, and legal challenges were subtly initiated to disrupt their operations. Daniel and Victoria found themselves facing a new kind of battle, one that required not just innovation and business acumen, but also resilience and strategic maneuvering. They knew that Omnicorp had vast resources and a reputation for playing dirty. One afternoon, Daniel received an anonymous tip, a cryptic email hinting at a major vulnerability within Omnicorp's security systems. Recognizing the potential leverage this information could provide, he delved deeper, using his technical skills to investigate. What he discovered was a network of hidden financial dealings and potentially illegal activities that could bring Omnicorp to its knees. He shared his findings with Victoria, and together, they faced a difficult decision. Exposing Omnicorp could have significant repercussions for the entire industry, but allowing Harding's unethical practices to continue unchecked was equally problematic. After careful consideration, they decided to play their cards strategically. Instead of going public with the information immediately, they used it as a bargaining chip. Daniel arranged a discreet meeting with Richard Harding. The meeting took place in a neutral location, a high-rise office building overlooking the city. The tension in the room was palpable as Daniel and Victoria sat across from Harding, his face a mask of arrogance and barely concealed hostility. "What is the meaning of this clandestine meeting, Hayes?" Harding sneered. "If you think you can intimidate Omnicorp, you are sorely mistaken." Daniel remained calm. "Mr. Harding, we have no intention of intimidation. We simply wanted to bring something to your attention." He slid a heavily encrypted USB drive across the table. "Consider it an audit of your recent activities." Harding raised a skeptical eyebrow. He plugged the drive into his laptop, his eyes widening in disbelief as he scrolled through the damning evidence Daniel had compiled. His composure began to crack. "Where did you get this?" he demanded, his voice now laced with a hint of panic. "Let's just say the digital world has its secrets," Daniel replied cryptically. "Secrets that can be quite damaging when brought to light." Victoria stepped in, her voice firm. "Mr. Harding, we are not looking to destroy Omnicorp. We simply want fair competition. We want you to cease your attempts to undermine our progress." Harding was trapped. He knew that the information Daniel possessed could ruin him and his company. After a tense silence, he spoke, his tone grudgingly respectful. "What do you want?" "We want a level playing field," Daniel said. "We want to compete based on the quality of our innovations, not on underhanded tactics and corporate bullying." A deal was struck. Omnicorp agreed to cease its disruptive activities, and in return, Daniel and Victoria agreed to keep their findings confidential, for now. It was a fragile truce, but it provided them with the breathing room they needed to continue building Sterling Innovations into a true industry leader. Years passed. Sterling Innovations, under the continued leadership of Daniel Hayes and Victoria Sterling, thrived. Their partnership, born from an unlikely encounter, had blossomed into a powerful and mutually beneficial alliance. They had not only saved a failing company but had transformed it into a beacon of innovation and ethical business practices. Daniel never forgot his humble beginnings as a waiter, and Victoria never forgot the humbling experience of losing her grip on power. These experiences shaped their leadership, instilling in them a deep sense of empathy and a commitment to fairness. One day, Daniel stood on the balcony of his office, overlooking the sprawling cityscape. He thought back to that night at the Omnicorp Gala, the sting of Victoria's words, the unexpected twist of fate that had led him down this extraordinary path. He smiled, a quiet sense of satisfaction washing over him. He hadn't just gotten revenge, he had built something meaningful, something lasting. And in doing so, he had found an unexpected partner and a profound sense of purpose. The waiter who had been humiliated had not only bought the company but had also, in a way, bought his own future. And that future looked brighter than he could have ever imagined.